Let's talk about the Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow. There's a lot of things going wrong with the Bengals right now, and they are in a vulnerable spot. They have a lot of contracts that are coming up. There's a lot of outside noise that's hurting this team. I do think that they can turn things around, but they always make life difficult for themselves. They always get off to a slow start ever since Zach Taylor became the head coach for the Bengals. And you'll have a lot of people say, well, Joe Burrow always gets off to a slow start. He doesn't play in the preseason. Give him time. Now, last year, he was hampered with the calf injury. They got off to a nasty, ugly start. Then they got on a hot streak. He hurts his wrist against the Baltimore Ravens. Their season was done at that point. The year before that, get off to another slow start. Joe Burrow, a couple of years ago, dealing with an appendix issue, didn't go out there, did not get to play in the preseason, got off to a slow start as well. How many times can you give Zach Taylor a pass for this? I understand injuries do play into this, but at the same time, him as a head coach, he has had a lot of shortcomings with this roster and with this talent, with Jamar Chase, with T. Higgins, with Joe Burrow. They're unprepared in the beginning of the season. Then they try to get hot in the middle of the season. And then at the end of the season, they try to go on a crazy run. And like how they did a couple of years ago when they went to the Super Bowl against the Los Angeles Rams. I'm not saying that Zach Taylor is a horrible head coach, but he's not the best head coach to have either. He's not going to get fired if this team does not make the NFL playoffs this season. If anything, they're going to fire Coach Lou, the defensive coordinator. When you look at this Bengals defense, and I do want to talk about the defense before I solely get into the offense and their contract problems. When I look at this defense, they can't stop the run. They struggle stopping the run against the New England Patriots in week 1. And let's be real about something. They should have won that game. They were playing very conservative. I understand Jamar Chase did not do much in practice because he wants to get paid. I'll have more on that in the next couple of minutes. But your defense could not stop Ramondre Stevenson. So they lost that game 16-10. And their offense did not look good early in the game and late in the game either. Joe Burrow was just being very efficient, and he has not had a turnover yet this season. He was just throwing a lot of passes underneath. Week 2 against the Chiefs. That's a bang-bang game. In terms of going out there, and both teams is hitting each other. It was a physical game. Patrick Mahomes had his worst game of the season up to this point. It was a bang-bang play with the pass interference. They called the defensive pass interference, and it was. But the referees have been very inconsistent with the Chiefs. The Chiefs had a similar play against the Falcons. They didn't call it. It was defensive pass interference, but at the same time, you could have let that play go. Because I could point out a lot of times in that game to where the Bengals wide receivers were getting held, and they didn't call anything. Ishii is getting held inside the slot early in the game. The referees just let it go. Jamar Chase is getting tugged on by his jersey. They just let it go. They don't say anything. And I'm not talking about the horse collar call either that made him flip out on the referee. I understand. I'm not trying to make excuses for the Bengals. They had that game won, but at the end of the day, they lost that game. And then you look at what happened against the Washington Commanders. Jaden Daniels had more total touchdowns than he had incompletions. And they struggled to stop the running game with him. They did a very good job against Austin Eckler and Brian Robinson Jr. But Isaiah Pacheco averaged over 4 yards a carry. Ramondre Stevenson went out there. He averaged over 4 yards a carry as well. Upwards to 5 yards a carry sometimes in that game. The defense has to be better. And I understand they don't have the same defensive players on the front seven that they have had in years prior. But Sheldon Rankins, I understand he's dealing with injuries, and the same with B.J. Hill. They have to be better. Sam Hubbard is a very good defensive lineman. So far, he has yet to record a sack this season. Trey Hendrickson is one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. 3 sacks. He's the only guy that's consistently getting to the quarterback over and over again. No one else is. And the linebacking play has been solid. Logan Wilson is a good veteran linebacker. The same with Jermaine Pratt as well. They just need to play better and they have to play up the standard. Now, when you look at Jaden Daniels, he had all day in the pocket. So Coach Lou is calling zero blitzes to put pressure on this kid and try to take the football away and just get the football out of his hands. They weren't able to do it. Their secondary let up big plays over and over again to Terry McLaurin. Their secondary was letting up some big plays against the Kansas City Chiefs as well. If they do not have that defensive pass interference call, this team is possibly 1-2 right now. And we're talking about a different situation here. The reason why they're in a vulnerable spot is not because of Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. They're all world. And the same with Sam Hubbard and Trey Hendrickson. Eventually, they're going to go out there and return to form. Right now, Trey Hendrickson has already returned to form. He has 3 sacks on the season in the last 3 games. Their defense has been a problem. In the past, their front seven was able to get to the quarterback. They were able to stop the run. That's not the case right now. And their secondary, they have good players. Cam Taylor-Britt is getting a bad rep right now because of what he said about the Washington Commanders. They run a simple offense, and he gave up some big plays to Terry McLaurin. And the week before that, he had a crazy interception on Patrick Mahomes. But the fact that they lost those 2 games and he talked crap about Xavier Worthy and about the system of the Washington Commanders, it does make him look bad. But I'm not going to come on this channel and say that he's a bum. He deserves it. He's a player. He thinks highly of himself, and he should. In my opinion, he's a very good cornerback to have with your team. And he is a very good cornerback moving forward. I'm not going to give up on him. Daxton Hill, they had him at the safety position for years. He's right back at the cornerback position. I think that's the best place for him to be long term. You look at Mike Hilton, a very good blitzing slot corner on the inside. Geno Stone needs to play better. They got him from the Baltimore Ravens. He left in free agency and he wanted to come play for the Bengals. Good tackler so far. He had a major hit on Brown, the wide receiver that was running the screens against them on Monday night when they went against the Washington Commanders. He had 7 interceptions last season. Where's the playmaking ability from him? They need him to go out there and be a better playmaker as well. They're not getting the interceptions. They're not playing together, and they're giving up a lot of big plays. And that rushing defense is going to be their Achilles heel if they cannot fix it, especially in this division with teams like the Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens. And even the Cleveland Browns, if Nick Chubb can return back to form. All of those teams, they like to run the football. Now, let's talk about the offense. Zach Taylor is too Joe Burrow dependent. I've said this for years now. Now, in the past, Joe Mixon was a very good running back, but they will always go out there and they will force Joe Burrow to throw the football 35 to 40 times in a game here or there. I understand why they do that, because Joe Burrow is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and he has elite weapons with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Now, Jamar Chase went out there. He had a crazy game against the Commanders. He had 2 receiving touchdowns. He looked like the Jamar Chase of old. He always gets off to a slow start in the beginning of the season as well, because so does Joe Burrow and the offense as a whole. But we all know that Jamar Chase is one of the best receivers in the game. But he's pissed off right now. He wants a contract extension. And he said that he's not talking to the Bengals anymore about that for the rest of the season. That's fine. He has 2 years left on his contract anyway. He'll be okay. T. Higgins, he doesn't want to be a Cincinnati Bengal anymore. He's going out there. He's still playing, but you could tell by body language. He wants his money. He requested a trade. He was reportedly threatening not to show up to training camp. They want their money. And you have one of the cheaper owners in the NFL. Now, when T. Higgins does leave, you have a good wide receiver in Ishivash who's come in and he's looked very good so far. He was very good against the Chiefs. He was very good against the Washington Commanders as well. I think he's going to be a very good number 2 player, because they're not going to keep T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Joe Burrow. It's almost impossible. And Trey Hendrickson wants a contract extension as well. He's going to be a free agent after this season. So you have a bunch of guys on this roster that want to go out there and get paid. And it's frustration. Being 0-3 for this team is not the end of the world because of the potential that they have offensively. But defensively, when I look at them, I am a bit scared. Joe Burrow had 3 passing touchdowns against the Commanders. Usually the Bengals win those games by 2 or 3 scores. They lost the game by 5 points. They lost 38-33. And they played very good defense against the Chiefs, yes, but Patrick Mahomes has not looked like himself in the first 3 games. They struggled against the run. And they struggled against the run against the Patriots as well. And that's a Patriots team that have 0 wide receiving threats. 0. Coach Lou went out there and he continued to not stack the box. I don't know why he's not doing this. And I will say this. He did his best against Jaden Daniels. To go out there and give that kid different looks, it just wasn't good enough. And Coach Lou in the past has done a lot of good things with the defense. I remember when Joe Burrow went out last season and they went against the Minnesota Vikings. He had the defense playing like their hair was on fire. He's capable of doing that. But if it would be a guy that's going to be the scapegoat, it would be him. They'll fire him before they fire Zach Taylor. Do you guys not realize how long Marvin Lewis stayed with the Bengals? And they had talent. A.J. Green. They had Andy Dalton. They had good running backs as well. They also had Mohamed Sanu. That was a very talented Bengals team, and they had little to no playoff success underneath Marvin Lewis, and they kept him around for years. So the Bengals do miss the playoffs this season. I don't see Zach Taylor getting fired. And he just led them to a Super Bowl a couple of years ago, which he is still coasting off of, and the same with Joe Burrow as well. But Joe Burrow really can't help that because of the injuries that he's been dealing with. But as long as Joe Burrow is fully healthy and the offense can put up points, the defense just has to be average. That's it. Their defense was a problem last season as well, especially their secondary. They had one of the worst secondaries in the NFL. I remember Kenny Pickett going out there and posting up a good game against them. And that's crazy to think about. They have good pass rushers. The secondary's young. They're going to get better. They just haven't had the right plays just yet to help them out. Close game against the Chiefs, close game against the Patriots, another close game against the Washington Commanders. But let me know in the comment section below, can the Bengals turn things around, and will they still be able to make the NFL playoffs this season? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for watching the video, guys. God bless. Peace.